Oh, what is that?
People of Greenland, prepare to be evacuated. Clear.
Quite frankly, it's not really green, but that's okay. We love Greenland.
Sir, you're so Sigma.
And you're a Chad, not as Chad as me. But you'll get there.
Why are you doing this?
Well, because...
We are America, second to none, and we own the finish.
Welcome to Basic Strategy. What you just saw is probably not going to happen, especially Joe Biden coming in riding a bald eagle. However, it is true that Trump wants America to buy Greenland. The most mentioned reason is that America needs Greenland for protection. Well, why is Greenland, a cold territory of Denmark with only 56,000 people and cities without roads between them, so important for protection? Let's look at Greenland on a map. Here's Greenland on another map. This is called the Arctic Circle. Over here is Russia and here China, the strongest rivals and the largest threat to the United States in terms of strategic power. It's not only an important shipping route for Russia, but if both of them wish to engage in any missile, submarine, or naval attacks, then the shortest route is actually through the Arctic Circle. For submarines, once they make it to the Atlantic Ocean, it's almost impossible to find them, and dangerous to fleets and allied supply routes in the war, and some of them do have nukes. This is not old information. In fact, Trump is not the first president that has offered to buy Greenland. President Truman, after World War II, asked Denmark to buy that territory for the same reason of national security. They rejected his offer. Now, America was and still is allies of Denmark and part of NATO. NATO is an organization that was created with the rest of the European countries to contain Soviet expansion, which is now Russia, and sometimes against China. As allies, America and Denmark came to an agreement stretching all the way back to 1951, which said, "Hey America, you want to build bases in Greenland?" Sure. So why is there a big issue today? Well, Greenland is not only vital to security, it has rich untapped resources underneath the ice. The rare earth metals, critical minerals, and oil potential equals lots of moolah. There's an opinion President Trump wants to buy Greenland for these resources. And well, he probably does. That's a lot of value for America.
Father, I hunger.
But officially, his public stance is national security. And to his credit, Russia did invade Ukraine 4 years ago, which is not a good sign. To increase national security, America might want to expand missile and submarine tracking systems, upgrade facilities for patrol aircraft, and we know Trump has pitched the idea of a golden dome in Greenland to intercept those nukes. The only thing is that any expansion of presence is going to end up being very, very expensive. In Europe, countries help America cover some indirect costs like rent or maintenance. Or in Asia, where Japan and Korea actually help split base costs by paying America every year. Greenland is 3 to 10 times more expensive than building a base in America due to low infrastructure and transport costs.
There's nothing here, and it's cold. I need a tent at least. What the? $50 for Amazon shipping?
What used to be 17 bases, 50 installations, and 10,000 personnel during the Cold War has now been consolidated to one base and 200 people. Although more efficient with modern technology, costs were the main reason for the cuts. The last remaining American base is pretty cool. Bidefik was originally an air base constructed in 1951 for $500 million, which is $5 billion today. 947 miles from the North Pole, it comes with missile tracking and space surveillance for the US and NATO's early warning systems. Also, it's operated by the Space Force since 2020. Again, the claim is Arctic security. So Trump has been complaining to Denmark since 2019, saying Denmark doesn't do enough, and the US should get Greenland. Denmark, of course, couldn't just sit around to these claims. They have responded with several military spending increases. The most recent was the 2025 Arctic Defense Packages. Effectively, Denmark spent 6.3 billion USD on technology, base, and staffing upgrades, 5 new Arctic ships to replace their old ones, sent 2+ long-range drones, and 2 new teams of sled dogs.
What the dog doing?
The problem is Denmark is a small country, and although they finally met NATO's expectation of the 2% GDP military budget in 2023, even if they go to 3% in 2026, it is not enough for what America wants. For example, on the other side of the Arctic Circle is Alaska, which has 9 bases, 22,000 active duty personnel, 150 aircraft, missile detection systems, 93% of America's ballistic missile interceptors. Basically, the whole supersized American combo. And that is what's protecting the western side of the Arctic Circle. It's not crazy to say perhaps America wants that same amount of capability in Greenland. That means to make America happy is almost an impossible game for Denmark.
Please, babe, give me a chance.
I don't talk broke.
So let's go over some strategies for America. Their desire is first Arctic security, and second is anything of value. Because no matter where you are from, your country is most likely opportunistic. Strategy number 1. Acquiring Greenland would be the best value option. If America owned it, they not only can justify building costs there, but also have way leftover profit. Also, you're more willing to build permanent bases on territory you own, like Alaska. This will be either through purchase or pressure. Purchase is the most favorable option, but although pressure such as tariffs is negative to the public, America will rank the resources higher than the cons if it does work. For strategy number 2 is to have NATO and Denmark increase their military presence there to help. This is probably what is going to happen and what America wants if they can't acquire Greenland. However, after Russia attacked Ukraine, countries might be more focused on their home front. So there's a chance the forces marshaled to be assigned to the Arctic Circle is still very small. Some NATO allies did send a small force in Operation Arctic Endurance in January 2026 to unite against Trump, but with 200 soldiers is mainly symbolic and does not fulfill America's desires. Number 3. NATO and Denmark help split base costs in Greenland. This is unlikely as not only will the bases benefit America more, but also because NATO countries don't want to break a longtime precedent and give reason for Trump to also ask them to help split base costs in the rest of Europe, just like they do in Asia. The best strategy for last. America invades Greenland by force, bombs everyone, takes it over, and cut off their allies. #manifest destiny. If you believe this will happen, then leave. It is the most strategic nonsense. This is akin to flipping the chessboard, and it would be a complete loss for America no matter the resources obtained. Even NATO themselves don't really believe Trump's gonna invade Greenland. But it's just, the guy's talking a lot of smack and they're not gonna punk out. Now, the rest of NATO's perspective on strategy is very simple. It's called soft balancing. This term means that by constraining America's resource and economic dominance, it ensures America remains strong enough to counter rivals, but not so dominant that it gains excessive leverage over allies. So, Denmark might make some partial concessions like giving away some mineral rights. Because if Trump doesn't accept and still demands all of Greenland, that'll worsen his perception back home. However, if America ever wants to acquire Greenland in the future, accepting a partial deal now would mean giving up that dream.
What if I get hungry later?
But truly, the only ones who know what's gonna happen are the ones playing the game and holding the cards. Maybe US intelligence did tell Trump that Russia and China were up to something there. China has the largest reserve of rare earth elements, and they have a small presence in Greenland's mining operations. Or perhaps America's being too greedy and using Russia and China as a boogeyman. And sometimes NATO countries are slacking militarily. There's always half-truths and speculations, And now you know the basics to why America, quote unquote, needs Greenland. And what's happening. So go ahead and respectfully discuss strategy in the comments below. If you were the president, what is your strategy? Does America have justification to want Greenland? Is the Russia and China threat overemphasized? What should NATO do to counter Trump? And if you were a Greenlander, what's your price to join the US? Offering $1 million to each 56,000 Greenlander is $56 billion. That's a very doable and tempting price. Personally, I'll do it for $2 mil. Anyway, thanks for watching, like and subscribe.